Heya, it's Puueds. This is not a good controller for Geometry Dash.
Controllers are just that. They're simply controllers. But when it comes to Geometry Dash icons, they're usually not viewed to be controlled with this. They're more so commonly viewed with this. More specifically this. And if Geometry Dash was only on phones and tablets, you'd be right about thinking this way. But Geometry Dash has been on PC since December 22nd, 2014, right after the 1.9 update on November 9th. And ever since then, people have discovered what it's like to be confused by a game's existence. So how on earth did this happen? Well, give you a confused thanks to RobTop Games, who decided to port Geometry Dash over to Windows and Mac. Not Linux though. And to boot, he coded controller support, and you now have the ability to play Geometry Dash with a big enter key if you really tried.
So for today, how about we go through all the types of controllers and how they shape Geometry Dash's playing scene today.
As you know, Geometry Dash first came out on mobile devices. Everyone played with their right thumb, left if you were smart and thought about sight reading. Until you get to the mirror portal. Before the PC port, every level was verified with your hands and fingers, from Stereo Madness to Stereo Demoness with a huge asterisk. So, are these fingers good for playing Geometry Dash? I used to play and create a lot on mobile, as most people did when starting out. The first couple of levels I made were on my iPad, and I somehow verified the Ships challenge. I was better on my iPad relative to me on my mouse today. I grinded about a few thousand stars to about probably 2,000, if I remember correctly. I was probably the 10,028 victor of Unity by Triaxis on mobile. With either a smaller screen or a smaller aspect ratio, there were almost genuine limits on how good you could get in Geometry Dash. You couldn't either see as far into the level, having to rely a bit more on memory, which can be kinda ass, or your thumb takes up 20% of the screen. And not only that, sometimes your thumb can just stick to the screen due to the friction or sweat that accumulates within 10 minutes of playing. It wouldn't be that bad if the human autonomy was designed for playing Geometry Dash levels and clicking thousands of times. However, despite these challenges, mobile players still live on in the mobile playing community. While mostly known for beating extreme demons on mobile, it's an impressive subset of the community that you don't really hear of that often because... And when you do, it's not the most popular thing. It's more of a local celebratory thing. Actually, Big Thunder 556 has been on a roll with playing on mobile, beating Cataclysm, Idols, Admirable, Celestial Force, and Big Bob, but he actually died at 94% on the last click. There's more cool people who've beaten seriously difficult levels, like Noxop who's beaten Yatagarasu on mobile, Biprex who've also beaten Yatagarasu on mobile, and everything else looking through this list. And Bradenbowl who's beaten Cororetta, Sunset Sandstorm, and an invisible version of that too. Plus he has some cool ass videos outside of Geometry Dash, and many more. You can find them on the GD Mobiles list. So scratch that part, there really aren't any genuine limits. But instead of making your fingers be the controller, how about you use them for controllers? If you threw that sentence at someone who played Geometry Dash on mobile and nothing else, they'd think you're pretty weird for that. Let's start with the controller everyone uses, the mouse. I also use a mouse when playing Geometry Dash because it's the most convenient despite the keyboard and controller and my hands just being right there. I feel a lot more control, and it's satisfying to hear that click while you're playing. Probably not for others while you're calling. Personally, the cube, wave, and shift feel the best when using the mouse, and back then the mouse was king in verifying the hardest levels. The most common mouses you'd see here are the G502, or a Razer Viper, or Basilic, with some miscellaneous mouses like the Rival 3 or the Death Adder. For me, I use a hand-me-down pink Razer Basilic from my sister, and it's a great mouse to use. That's really all I have to say about this because I create way more than I play. Except microclicks. To put it simply for those who don't know, microclicks are clicking the mouse as lightly as you can, and it's infuriating every single time you have to do it. That one robot and cube duel in retention by Woogie1411. Oh my Jesus Christ. It's not that bad if you get used to it, however, it's really better to use a keyboard or even a console controller so that your index finger doesn't really have to do a spasm to do a microclick. Now if you didn't want to deal with that, how about switching over to the keyboard? You have a multitude of choices with what key you can use. The W key, the arrow up key, and the spacebar. 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 4 out of 10 respectively. These options are much better for spamming, depending on the keycap and switch you use. Now, I'm not really a keyboard kind of guy. My keyboard is, well, I can't get it out for demonstration purposes. There's linear, tactile, and clicky switches, which you can learn more by going online. And the type of keycaps is, okay, there's a lot of them, so just go do some research. I prefer to use the arrow up key as my right hand and arm doesn't have to angle itself awkwardly like with the spacebar and W key, and I'm also not left-handed. Spacebar is when I feel bored and I decide to try it out. This happens once or twice every year, and every time I remember why I don't play on it.
Okay, I'm ready to play.
And for the W key, I'd only use this for platformer levels, which in that regard it's pretty good, but for classic levels...
Okay, I'm really ready to play.
As for levels that have been completed with keyboard or just players in general, SirGuillester, who was the king of being a keyboard player back in the 2.0 and early 2.1 days, he's beaten levels like Blade of Justice and Duel of Master by himself. And then Zoink, Cursed...
The true test is failed!
Doggie... Wait a minute, most of the top players right now are using the keyboard. This is actually kind of a shock to me, since I was around during the mouse's reign of terror in the playing scene. It was the go-to for beating seriously hard timing levels. But since top levels have been incorporating more and more spam, the pendulum has shifted more towards using the keyboard as the optimal controller. Compare levels like Ouroboros and then Slaughterhouse, the amount of clicks in quick succession you would need for a few parts are just... Jesus. It's interesting to note that because of creators trying to make levels harder and harder no matter what, it actually shifted the player meta. These two groups of people always influence each other back and forth despite how much we try to differentiate them in their types of skills and methods. Additionally, these keys can also be used for levels that activate the 2-player mode in the editor, and it depends on whether you have limit controls on. From my experience, player 2 was the spacebar. If you play Take 2 by Viet, it's pretty uncomfortable to switch between keys while still playing the level. Every time a door came in, I had to swap to spacebar, and then if the door exit came in, swap to arrow key and pray to not get confused. The level is actually pretty fun. But with 2.2, there's also platformer mode, and if you put that on top of 2-player mode, you get access to the A key, the D key, the arrow left key, and the arrow right key. 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 6 out of 10, and 3 out of 10 respectively. I won't get into how these keys are used since they can be used for so many different things, but what I can talk about are the custom remapping of buttons on mobile. I am so sorry you have to deal with this. If the keyboard isn't a great ergonomic fit for you, you can try out the SayoDevice. It's a very niche type of keyboard with only 3 buttons, a knob wheel, and if you buy it from the right supplier, an OO. I haven't gotten this yet since my current desk has barely any room for it, but from what I've heard, it's actually meant for Osu, but it works well for Geometry Dash. It has the click satisfaction of a mouse, has a rapid trigger, and is more responsive with a higher polling rate. The SayoDevice is really good for ship and especially wave because of that. But whether it's for you, it depends on your skills and what you used before. If I tried to migrate to it from a mouse, the keycaps would wear down not from me pressing it over and over, but from tears. It is pretty good for the price, so you can go buy it if you like and see if it works for you. If not, just use it for Osu. Moving on to the most commonly used controllers, how about we talk about controllers in their most known format? You can use your Xbox 360 controller or PS4 controller, or whatever controller that can connect via USB as long as Geometry Dash can support it, and it works pretty well. I used to play with the Xbox 360 controller for a while, especially when I was bored or I needed an edge in ship, robot, or cube control. The ship and robot makes sense, but even now I don't know how I perform better with the cube for this. The most prominent player that I know of that used a controller back in the day was Krmal. He beat Chronicle Depression, Phobos, and Black Blizzard with it. But there's other players that too use a controller, such as Larkin, who's been playing for more than 7 years with it. EricVanWilderman back in the day. You can see the button prompts on his menus in his older videos. 12 Kelvin, who used to play on controller and beats some pretty hard demons like Zodiac, Limbo, and Firework. You can find it on the GD controller list here. It's Electric, Scaro, The Slam, Joshua 28, and a few others are on it too. You can check them out. For every time I look for something, if there's something that exists within Geometry Dash, there probably is a list for it. This controller is weird with 2-player levels. You might not expect to use shorter buttons, but surprisingly Robtop coded the input support for it, and in case for the 2-player levels, it works pretty well. The shorter bumpers are somewhat stiff, but it is doable, and you can still use the A button, so you can have that for player 1 and one of the shorter buttons for player 2. A few players have actually beaten 2-player levels using this control scheme. Graydient beat Pulse with it, so that's pretty neat. That's it for the conventionally and most commonly used controllers, but what if I told you you could play Geometry Dash with... Yes, you can actually connect most of these controllers by either a wired connection and fiddling around with bindings or Bluetooth. GD Colin has 2 videos on using controllers for Geometry Dash, starting with the Wii Remote. The button to jump is A, and any mouse cursor movement is emulated with the nunchuck control stick, and really, that's all you need. He couldn't get the pointer to work, which would have been pretty sick. And if you played with the Wii Remote, you know it's not too good for spam clicking, as not only does it use your thumb, you have to elongate it a bit to reach the button. He actually puts it on a table and uses his index finger, but any sane man would know that that is not the real way to use a remote.
Oh, what the fuck?
The Switch controllers are mostly the same deal, but it might be slightly better to spam on this, and definitely better on 2-player levels. Actually, I thought of this just then. You could have one person have either Switch controller for local multiplayer. RobTop could definitely consider putting Geometry Dash on the eShop, and some people just might be curious enough to try it out. The Wii U gamepad. Unironically, this could be pretty sick. What would be even more sick is that if Geometry Dash was ever ported to the Wii U for some reason, it could actually utilize the gamepad screen to basically be a huge phone but with buttons and sticks. It sucks even more for spamming than the Wii remote. Well, since the Wii U is dead, and the Wii U gamepad should hypothetically be able to screen Geometry Dash on its monitor, but I don't know if anyone's done it yet, there is a substitute called the Steam Deck. Honestly, yeah, it makes sense that this is an option since Steam has every game known to man, and the Steam Deck would attempt to accommodate for all of those. He explained Knights of Thunder, and it's pretty neat. On the topic of Nintendo, instead of controllers, how about you use the entire game console to control the icon?
The cube's not jumping at all.
The Nintendo 3DS can actually work. I talked with Eliana about it when she announced that she figured it out. Using a modded 3DS and binding keyboards to individual buttons with external tools, she managed to barely beat deadlocked. The UI supported navigation is...
RIP.
Did you also know you can use your phone as a controller? Using the Steam Link app, you can link your phone to Steam and play Geometry Dash on PC. On your phone. The main benefits of this include that your thumb doesn't take up 20% of the right side of the screen, and the cons include... you have to still use a phone at the end of the day. This is also pretty sick. Even if you don't get the ship control and click satisfaction from the mouse or the spam potential of the controllers or the keyboard, it's another refreshing way to play Geometry Dash if you're really bored. And if you're still really bored, you might as well just hop on your phone and play Geometry Dash instead of doing this method, which takes a few more minutes to set up. If you have qualms with the keyboard, especially with the up arrow key being just kinda small, the big enter key might be your savior.
What about the W key in the spacebar?
GD Colin and KingSammelot have both done this, and well, GD Colin plays it pretty normally. KingSammelot jumps on it instead, just like the cube in Geometry Dash, and he actually breaks the key in the video. I am screaming internally right now. If you thought playing Geometry Dash with your feet is starting to look more and more enticing, how about playing some Dance Dance Revolution? Yes, this can be paired with Geometry Dash if you can try. Okay, there was an attempt. He actually made a level design for the Dance Dance Revolution controller, and that might be the first time I've ever uttered that sentence. It's pretty sick, and I recommend watching this and the other videos featured in this. His stat is also awesome as hell, and the required backflip at the end is something that should be added to more levels so that they're more cooler.
Hey guys, I just updated Swagger to have an S+ rank after the P rank since it would make more sense. So if you want to get that, you're gonna have to do a skateboard trick followed by a backflip to go get it.
And if you needed extra keys for spamming, the piano can work. Man, it feels like it was really designed for this. I'm surprised it came out 300 years ago. Okay, for real, KingSammelot has just cracked the Geometry Dash, piano, basketball, and coding, and storytelling while doing 2 of those? I hope to see him do all 4 at the same time as well. But if you don't want to use any of your limbs, your mouth can work. KingSammelot again uses his microphone, but goes even a step further and tries to rap to jump. Jeez, is there anything he can't do? And finally, the Launchpad, the king of songs and funny soundboards. Pretty obvious in what it does, but Colin's customization of the pads to be the RobTop cute is pretty neat. It's also good for rolling over the thing for that extra satisfaction. I also have a banana keyboard, and after an hour of coding and trying to set it up using Arduino IDE, I can finally play Geometry Dash with it. Thing is, I can't play on it well because I can't hold. No! It's not flat, so I have to hold it in place with my left hand and not slam the keycaps with my right hand. The banana was not well designed for a Geometry Dash, so I'm just gonna fix it right here. That's all the controllers for today. Now, despite Geometry Dash being designed for only a single thumb, its simple design really allows any sort of controller or control scheme to simply work because it only really needs one button. Outside of 2-player or platformer or both in one level. And it's all thanks to RobTop deciding to port over Geometry Dash to PC so we can win this GD Colin beating me and KingSammelot breakdancing. Actually, now that you think about it, all the boundaries have been broken just because of porting over. Nobody would think of controlling your cube in Geometry Dash with the Xbox 360 controller, and now only like 4 people think of doing that.
I will be person number 5.
The skill setting has been pretty much pushed to outer space because of the mouse and keyboard. Along with numerous controllers to choose from, you can really achieve a lot more precision in general in both classic and platformer levels. It's hard to think back to a time where everyone was playing on mobile.
If you excuse me, I'm going to campaign for better controllers in Geometry Dash and also getting everyone back on mobile. If you want people to stop doing the easiest thing, you're gonna have to ease them into it.
Sorry guys, just give me a minute to set this up.
Please share this moment so you too can help out with this movement.